Hey, good morning, friends. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo. And as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, this literally does not work. Let's get open for business here on this Saturday morning. Guys, we are 24 hours away from the kickoff of the Dallas Cowboys against the Atlanta Falcons. And guys, you want playoffs? We're talking about playoffs. This game right here is a playoff game. Make no mistake about it. We win, we keep hope alive. We lose, it makes it that much harder. It means that you got to get a whole lot of help. So we truly need to get this victory. We need to enact some revenge for last year because last year was a turning point for our season. Zeke Elliott wasn't there. Chaz Green was. Claiborne was there. Claiborne got paid because of that game. He literally beat the Dallas Cowboys into submission. And from that point on, our offense went way downhill. And it's just really beginning to recover right now. And I know some of you guys will say we're a long ways from being recovered. But I dare say that if you look at the hyperbole, I think that's how it's called, we went from being pretty good. Zeke Elliott went out, offensive line went down, Dak Prescott went down, and now we're beginning to start coming up. It doesn't feel like that, but it's really true. And one thing you have to, at least, you guys that hate Dak Prescott, at least when you compare what Tony Romo did in 2014, at least look at the talent on the team. Just do that for me. If you can honestly say that we've got the same as far as tight end goes, Jason Witten, 4 years ago, talent-wise, with what we have right now. If you look at talent-wise now, the last couple of games we can argue because we got Amari Cooper, but up until this time, where you had Dez Bryant having his career year in 2014, talent-wise, if we had the same talent on this team, I think not. And you looked at the offensive line, which has now had Connor Williams in, now out. You got Xavier in there. You had Lyle Collins, who kind of regressed from last year, and Tyron Smith, who's been kind of injured, and Zach Martin, who has had an injured knee all season, and Travis Frederick not playing. Compare that offensive line to 2014. Not making excuses, but the talent level of what we had even in 2016 versus now is not the same. Not to say that we're not getting better and better, and we are getting better talent. I gotta say, Xavier looks like a real deal. Now, it's only been one game, and sometimes your first game, you look really good, and then you come back down to earth. I hope that's not the case. But he has looked fantastic last week, and that offensive line is beginning to look like it did in the 2016. That game last week was a lot better than we've had in a long time. And now having Xavier Woods, a threat out there, is helping the other wide receivers. You're seeing Allen Hurns making a play. You're seeing Michael Gallup because the field is getting stretched. And the question, because a lot of people are still on this bandwagon kick of, you know, we wasted a first round pick making a trade for Amari Cooper. But I dare say that we may look back. There's no guarantees in football. Understand, you can make what seems to be the perfect move. And at the time when we drafted, say, Morris Claiborne, people said that that's a shutdown corner. That's the best defensive player in the draft. And the Cowboys taking a second and a number one going for him seemed like the right move. It seemed great, and everybody agreed with it. But it's football. That doesn't always mean it's the case. As we found out, Morris Claiborne wasn't the answer. But right now, with Amari Cooper, because what we heard from the naysayers about Amari Cooper was he hasn't done crap. He's regressed. He's not doing anything with the Raiders. And why would the Cowboys give up a number one for him? Okay, well, let's go through the numbers. Because before he came to Dallas, in 6 games that he was with the Raiders, he had 22 completions, 12.7 per completion, 1 TD, 280 yards. That doesn't say number one at all. Not at all. Now, since he's been with the Cowboys, because that's with Derek Carr, who people say is Derek Carr is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. He was ranked 60th in top players in the NFL last year, um, even though he had the same numbers as Dak Prescott. Just putting that out there. Identical numbers to Dak Prescott last year. He was rated 60 on the top 100. Dak Prescott didn't sniff it. Just saying. But people believe he is a great quarterback, except for John Gruden, who probably will get rid of him after ruining him. He made him cry. But then again, what do you expect from Chucky? So that's what he was getting with the Raiders. About 3 catches a game. He's only had 2 games with the Cowboys. 2 games to work with Dak Prescott. Few practices. They've Skyped and so on. They haven't had time to really develop a repertoire. They haven't had time really to work together. So the sky is the limit. They should be able to do more each week. And by next year, hopefully, really develop chemistry. What you hear from the two of them, Amari Cooper sounds happy to be gone from the Raiders and happy to be a Dallas Cowboy. He's a very quiet, reserved guy. He's not a me, give me the damn ball, shut the hell up kind of guy. He's a guy that goes to work, does his job. You don't hear a lot from him. And him and Dak seem to be getting along well. Now, thus far, with only a few practices together, he had 5 catches one game, 6 catches the second game. That's 11 catches. 11 catches in 2 games versus 22 in 6 for 133 yards. So what he has done production-wise already is blowing away what he was doing with the Raiders. And he's on pace for about 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards, somewhere in there, 8 TDs, you know, pretty good numbers for a guy that just got to town. And so the question you have to say is, okay, you gave up a number 1 pick for him. If we didn't make this trade for him, you could pretty much guarantee that we'd have to take a wide receiver in the first or second round. More than likely a first round like we did with Dez Bryant. One thing about wide receivers, there's a couple positions that don't immediately translate to being starters right away, or it takes time to develop. Center is one of those. Now, Travis Frederick took it right away, but that's the field general out there. It's a hard position to go. You got to know everything and everybody. You got to make the calls, as well as snap the ball to the quarterback behind you. It's hard for a rookie to pick that up. Wide receivers are another one. Now there's Julio Joneses, there's Odell Beckhams that you can get that do start out really well from Jump Street. But more times than not, it takes a couple of years for wide receivers to develop. So if we drafted a wide receiver in the first round, more than likely you're not going to get great impact that year. I look at Michael Gallup, who's a third round draft pick, not a number 1, who's gaining as the season goes on, and I think he's actually going to be a stud, especially if you have a Amari Cooper out there, somebody else to help take some of the focus off. But it's still going to take time for him to develop. So from a standpoint of having a guy who's ready to go day 1 next year, you got that with Amari Cooper. You get an offseason of him working with Dak. You get hopefully a better offensive coordinator and a better system. You may end up seeing a great combination. There's no guarantees on that. But from a standpoint of saying, yeah, well, we don't have a first round draft pick. Well, true. But a lot of times, you have a first round draft pick that doesn't do jack. We know what he's got. 2 Pro Bowls behind him. A couple of really good seasons. And he's only 24 years of age. So in my mind, looking at it at this moment, it was a good bet. Time will tell if it was a great one and how it'll work out. But thus far, the other thing you have to look at is this. The last 2 games, Dak Prescott against the Titans, 243 yards, a 99.3 QBR, 2 TDs. Last week on the road against Philadelphia, 270 yards, 102.8 QBR, and a TD. Clearly, having more talent on the field, those are two of his best 3 games of the season. Clearly, having that guy on the field is making a difference for the Dallas Cowboys. Hopefully, tomorrow, it's going to make an even bigger difference against the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm hoping that we go in there at Atlanta and we take care of business. Get in, get a win, and stay healthy, and get on to the next one. So, guys, I'm excited. Got to figure out what we're making tomorrow. But, hey, it's a labor of love. I'm Mark Holmes, and I'll see you guys soon.